See that? That was free. Okay.
Thank you.
Brian made it, yay. Hey, Kathleen. Are all set? Are we live? Oh, yeah, wow, there we go. All right, Happy New Year, everybody. I call this meeting to order. It is January the 12th, 2022. And this is the meeting of the Carbondale, Colorado Parks and Recreation Commission.
So turn your.
Oh, good idea. Okay. We are an advisory commission made up of volunteers to assist and consult with town staff and make recommendations to our town elected officials. My name is Hollis Sutherland, and I'm honored to serve as commission chair for this year. I'm joined by fellow commission volunteers, Vice Chair Rose Rosello, Ashley Haight-Manick, Leslie Keary, Susan Ray, John Williams, Brian Sobey, and Misha Logan. We're joined by our Carbondale staff, Eric Brenlinger, Parks and Recreation Director, Jesse Rochelle, Community Center and Recreation Programs Manager, and Kay McDonald, our Board and Commissions Clerk. Luis Yanes is our Board of Trustee Liaison. I'd like to welcome anybody who may be watching live or via recording. Thank you for participating in your local government. As the commission, we strive to serve the town of Carbondale by setting aside personal biases and looking at what's best for our community. We honor diverse opinions, promote inclusivity, and endeavor to keep our discourse civil and respectful. So we're going to get started with approving the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any edits, changes?
Okay, amazing as usual.
Of course, Kay is amazing as usual. Round of applause. How you keep up with it, Kay, I have no idea, but you do a great job. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No, okay, let's see, I've got 1, 2,
How's everybody else?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think everybody can vote tonight, right? Are we missing anybody? I know Kathleen is leaving us. It's our first order of business. So I don't even know how much voting we really have tonight. So Misha, you want to be the voter? Okay. All right. All right, so the next item is we have to say goodbye to Kathleen, but honor her. And Kathleen, I just want to thank you for all the years of service that you had. I think Eric wrote a very lovely thing for the record. In fact, do you want to read that, Eric?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So Kathleen, thanks a lot for all your service. You became a member to the commission on September of 2014, and much was accomplished by the department under the guidance of the Parks and Rec Commission during your tenure. Kathleen was instrumental in producing a public outreach process that was initially driven by the commissioners to explore the next steps to replace our aging aquatics facility. This effort enabled staff to produce a successful GOCO grant to conduct a funded aquatics facility master plan process. Due to your background in the field of Parks and Rec, interesting backstory, I hired Kathleen for her first job in Parks and Rec field way back in 2008 or 9 in Glenwood. So we've known each other for a long time.
Eric, that was 2001, 20 years ago.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Gosh, 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so we are dated, yes.
We're all getting old.
Yeah. Exactly. That's amazing. So due to your background in the field, you've always been a champion for the essential services the Parks and Rec Department provides to the citizens of Carbondale. You constantly supported the Parks and Recreation Department's efforts and provided a voice of reason when we needed it. And we needed that quite a lot sometimes. So that was great. We wish you luck in your future endeavors, and want to thank you profusely for your valuable volunteer service and your knowledgeable perspective on all things parks and recreation related. So I'm sad to see you go, Kathleen. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, board. This is really important work that you're doing. And when people think of Carbondale, many people think of the parks and recreation programming that we have here. And that feeds into the quality of life that makes it so wonderful to live here. And that's because of everybody on this board. So I am around if you need help with the Aquatics Center. I'd love to continue to stay engaged in that. And I just have a lot of public meetings in the evening back to back. And that's why I have to resign. But I am pro pool. And if anyone needs someone to kind of vet ideas off of, please reach out to me and would love to continue to stay engaged. So thank you, Eric, for being a great mentor over the past 20 years. And congratulations on where the board is heading in this new endeavor for the pool and with other grants you'll be pursuing. And I also want to commend the board for the great work that they've done in the strategic planning process in terms of implementing the master plan that's been in place for several years since I've been on the board. So good work there.
Kathleen, I just once again want to thank you. And yes, Eric said you are a voice of reason, but you're also positive, and always trying to find how can we make things work and how can we get things done, and always looking for the ways that we can achieve our goals. And so I just want to thank you for that and for reaching out to me from time to time. Talk about different things. And I've always appreciated your perspective on it. So you will definitely be missed.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Wait.
Hey, hang on, we're not done.
Oh, we're not done.
You actually, shoot, now I gotta do like my suggestion. Wait, so I also just want to, you're the one that brought me on this originally and you.
Oh, I did. I was like, definitely Rose, you need to be on this board.
You just called me up and you're like, you need to apply. And then they voted for this other dude, which I don't really approve of, John. But I think, I don't know, it was a year later or 6 months later, but I kept on like trying to get up on the group and got in here eventually. And I'm really happy to be here. And you've been such a mentor through the group. And I feel like very similar to Tracy, you always introduce yourself and you always ask intriguing questions. And really, I feel like you use people's time well when they're here and it makes you're a great role model. I also want to say that I helped picking out these gifts, but we have this really bomb little, we have my favorite tea from Two Buds and a Leaf. There's a whole bunch of these. It's the chamomile. So it's so pretty. It's got little flowers in it. And then this awesome little, and so the adventure begins, like bomb mug. I don't know, you can't really see it.
Oh, I need that. I've had COVID for 3 weeks. So
Yes, it's amazing. So I'll drop it by. We also have a little something from the chamber. And then Anthony and Alma put in a My Little Pony. So I don't know if you want me to throw that in there.
I'll take it. That sounds awesome.
So I don't know. It's yeah.
And a certificate.
So thank you so much for all your time and the more time that you'll be spending with us too, I'm sure. And
Yeah,
I'll cut this stuff off one day this week.
please include me if you need any, somebody to roll up their sleeves during the pool process. I'm available to do that. So.
Oh, yeah. You're on the top of the list. You're the numero uno spot.
Yeah. Well, everyone here has been just really great to work with. And we've had some good dialogue and discussion over the past several years. I was pregnant with Ella when I first joined the board, and she's 7 now. And I took a little pause to have another child. And part of the greatest joy of our life is spending time at the recreation center and the programming and in the parks here. And so this is the good work of what makes life really special is all the decisions we make in this room. So thank you.
Well, and you've been a big part of that too, for making it even better. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Feel better, sweetie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone's gonna get it. I've heard, but
I got
It's a
it.
matter of time, right?
We have to at
Thank
some
you.
point have you back to take a little picture with you
Right.
and
Oh, I
Jesse
love that.
and Eric.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, good night, everybody.
Right.
Bye, Kathleen.
So I think she wants the My Little Pony. We have that on the
Yeah.
record.
I think definitely.
Go off the reduced sticker. Let's keep that off the record.
Too late. It's in the recording. All right. Okay, Eric, so you want to talk about weeds?
Yeah. So we're into the zone of really taking a look at our efforts in 2021 on our weed management plan, and then planning for 2022 before the growing season hits us here. We like to take the 2022 plan to the Parks and Rec Commission. We like to also take that plan to the E-Board, and then we take it to the trustees for final decision, making capabilities on what we are proposing for next year. Last year, we spent some time with some experimental plots down at the nature park. And so we used 3 different techniques down there on 2 separate plots down there. One plot was around the cabin itself, where we had an infestation of some type B and C noxious weeds. And we mapped that out and used these 3 separate products in a fenced in area. And then we also picked another spot in the middle of the nature park that was not the native brome grasses there, but more of a disturbed area of like the voles are down there. And so the voles disturb the area. You have this kind of dirt patches that are just ripe for the Canada thistle to just take over. And so those were our 2 test plots down there. We used an herbicide called Tenacity. We used Avenger, which is a organic burn down herbicide. And then we got with the Natural Land Manager, who has a proprietary product that is organic also. And he used his product, Alpha Naturals is the name of that company. And he used his product on the third test plot. So what we saw happen down there on those test plots was some effect on the weeds. The burn down herbicide, non-chemical burn down organic treatment does its job, but it's non-selective. So it killed everything, killed the healthy grasses too, and the healthy brome grasses down there. And the Tenacity, the actual herbicide, we saw some lower growth of the noxious weeds, but not an eradication by any means. The Alpha Natural product, showed us some good action on some of the bindweed and but not it actually looked like it fertilized some of the plants. So that one, wasn't our catch-all, hey, this is going to fix everything that we had hoped it would be. So what we walked away with after that kind of experiment is that there's not one, elixir that's going to work. When we returned a couple of weeks later, you could see the effect of the 3, but the regrowth down there happened fairly rapidly. And so you'd have to use a lot of any of those products and have somebody just literally dedicated to on a 33-acre park, walking around with a hand sprayer 5 days a week, So we saw some efficacy of the products, but we also realized that for that large of a park, that's not a preferred technique. A spot treatment or even a blanketed treatment of that park is not realistic. So So that took us back to like our existing techniques of weed management. We plan on burning the park again in the spring. We plan on utilizing volunteer hand pulling of the noxious weed infestations. We'd like to experiment with some goats. You know, I think it's time to start looking at some of our problem weed parks and looking at that as another, tool in the toolbox. And where that would work the best down there is inside the solar array. We had a large infestation of Canada thistle, Scots thistle in the solar array. And I spent a week with 2 temp workers to hand pull all that. And there's such a seed bed in that soil down there that it's going to be right back to where we were this year, next year, I guarantee you. So it's just a constant need to just be ready to have at, a couple times a year, probably manual weed pull for some of those spots down in the nature park. So our experimentation, didn't give us, some product that's just going to be our catch-all product that we're going to use all the time and not have to go through those other steps in the process. And that's just the reality of the noxious weeds. If you don't do anything about them, they're going to take over. So what's in front of you here is kind of our 2022 plan, and it does isolate some of our problem parks. Gateway RV Park, Riverfront Park at the North Bridge location in the RVR, the Nature Park, and baseball field infields, and the North Face Bike Park. So those are literally our problem areas. We're going to be treating those like we have in the past. We have that spreadsheets on each individual spreadsheets on each one of those parks that kind of goes through where we are with our process there. And so that's also included in your packet. And so you can kind of take a look at those. We do want to approach the goats and to see where that might be integrated into our tiered process of treating some of our parks. And so I am going to reach out to them and have a conversation with them. They do camp out at the rodeo grounds when they're in town working for RAFTA. And so I'm going to hopefully talk to them about a trade out there for some time, just as a tester, just to see how that would work, and where we were thinking of utilizing them would be in some fenced in locations. So like the solar array in the nature park. So that's kind of the plan there. We are going to work with Alpha Naturals, and because what we saw, we did an experiment with him also out at the bike park on just the hillside there, and we cordoned off a zone, and he put down his product, and we were able to put it right next to the other hillside on the same aspect, same vegetation, and really get a good look at what effect his product had on the noxious weeds there. It knocked down the Canada thistle pretty well, but where it worked really well was the bindweed. And so we are going to contract with him for some treatments on the where we have our bindweed problem, because our Avenger, our burn down product doesn't work on the bindweed. It needs to be a broadleaf weed for that to work. And so all we've been doing, we tried to steam those too in the ball field infields. That's where we've had our problems, especially due to COVID, when they didn't get used at all, when they weren't being drug and weren't being prepped for games, that bindweed went nuts. We did an experiment on the ball fields where we went in and actually, dug down manually by dragging with a bolt drag and cleaning up all the bindweed that way. And it just made the bindweed very mad. And it came back with a vengeance. So our technique for next spring is going to be to bring in the alpha naturals. It seemed to work pretty well on the bindweed. So we're going to give that another experiment just on our ball field infield. It's an organic product, so we don't have to worry about, kids playing on it or anything. And then all of our ball fields need a top dress anyway. So we're going to conduct that process, do the bolt drag and do all that again. Make sure we lay down that product, and then we'll top dress it with the infield dirt material. So I think we'll be able to get a little bit more control over that. It's really gone crazy. If you looked at the ball field infields last summer, it was really pretty sad. They were being overtaken by the bindweed. And we did some manual polls too, and it comes back with a vengeance. It's pretty amazing. If you water dirt, give it some sun, and that bindweed's there, it's going to grow really fast. Like 2 weeks later, after some manual polls, it looked like we hadn't done anything. So it's just a tough one. But we're gonna keep experimenting on how to treat that. That's going to be our technique for that problem.
Is that natural, whatever, is that non-specific or is that specific?
The alpha natural.
Yeah.
It's a proprietary product. So,
But did it kill everything like the Avenger, or did it?
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, he says it'll let the grasses still grow. And we saw that down at the nature park with the experiment. And he said it should target, the noxious weeds and let the grasses grow. We saw the grasses grow, but also some of the weeds grow.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, like you said in here, bindweed is tenacious.
Yeah.
50 years, the seeds last forever. Did you use products like pre-emergent seed killer things? Does that work at all?
We haven't done much pre-emergent stuff yet. We're trying to just treat the problem after it comes out of the ground.
I don't think you're ever going to get rid of bindweed.
Yeah, and hopefully
Roundup or gasoline.
and hopefully we'll bury it, so hopefully we won't have any photosynthesis happening. So that's kind of our technique, try to use his product to get it to dormant stage and bury it.
I'm dealing with it in my area too. I'd love to know what works.
Okay. So Mike Callis, who's our arborist, did use tenacity just and we got approval for this in last year's process. In the roundabout gardens, there's no real public access, to those garden spaces. So he thought that, and he did a combination use there. So he used the weed steamer there too. And so tenacity and the weed steamer, it got them a little bit ahead of their game there. They still were battling the thistles though. The thistles seemed to not really respond to either of those techniques the way they had hoped. So the steamer has to come back, every 2 weeks to make any headway there. So he's interested in looking at a herbicide called Open Site. And so what we'll do is we'll look at that herbicide and talk to the Garfield County weed management and just see what they think about that and get some more information on that before it gets, presented out in the final stages. So, so right now, the only real use of herbicide would be a continuation of the tenacity in the Roundabout Gardens. Unless we look at this open site and it looks good, with some consultation with some weed management professionals. So that might be a request in the end if it's looking like it's a good product for those needs of Mike Callis.
I thought the burning,
Mhm.
I know people burn their ditches and there's concerns about that too. And burning, I know it promotes the cheatgrass. So what's your, aren't there other downsides to it? Nesting birds, anything like that up there? I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, where we hope to use it this year, which we haven't used it in a couple of years, is at the bike park. Our weed issues at the bike park.
Oh,
So
I thought you said you were gonna do it at the nature.
we did about 80% of the nature park last spring.
And how'd that work?
Yeah, I think it works pretty well. It keeps that Canada thistle small versus, the big, huge infestations. Seems like it's working. So, and not hurting the natural brome grasses there at all. They come back pretty well. It gets rid of a lot of the dog poop. That's floating around out there.
People don't pick it up.
In the areas where things aren't, you don't want anything really to grow, baseball infields, bike parks, things like that. Are there other products based on, highly acidic or highly alkaline pH or salts or anything like that are they're usable in those areas where they typically wouldn't be because you do want plants to grow?
Yeah, a lot of people have been, using just kind of a vinegar-based products, acidic-based products like that, and they do commercially make those products. That's one product we haven't tried is the vinegar-based, products and the saline-based products. So that could be something we could try.
I can say from personal experience, vinegar has worked very well.
Yeah.
We all know that story.
And I would imagine that salt-based products would work fairly well too. Like take, for instance, baseball infields. There's already what I would guess is a considerable amount of lime put down just to paint the lines. So other products that add a higher, some sort of a salt content to inhibit the growth of anything could possibly be beneficial there because you really don't want anything, grass or weeds or anything whatsoever to grow. Does that open up other avenues?
Yeah, that's something we can test. Like since we're going to be working with Alpha Naturals, we might, look at some available products that you're talking about and have him treat one field with his product and we actually treat the other field with that product. And then we'll get at least another comparison in our experimental stage. So that's not a bad idea.
Do you have a website for Alpha Naturals, by the way? I can't seem to find them online.
His company's also called Be Safe
Be Safe Consulting.
Consulting. Yeah. Be Safe Consulting.
Safe Consulting LLC.
Okay. Have you seen like a product data sheet or anything like that for them that you could send to folks?
No, because it's interesting with him. He's been developing this product for 20 plus years. And so he calls it his proprietary product. He guarantees you it's organic and has all organic materials. He'll even stick some in his mouth and not swallow it, but to prove.
He's a beekeeper, right?
Yeah. To prove to you that
He
it's.
doesn't want to give up his recipe, right? Didn't he come and talk to us one time? Yeah, it's pretty specific.
At the same time, we went through this with a previous herbicide that claimed to be organic, and it turned out that was a big scandal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric found out a little information on that too. You want to?
Yeah, there's a loophole in the language of the business of herbicides, where if there's a certain percentage of a chemical and it's not enough of a percentage of the product that they can still call it organic. So that's what those guys were doing at the EcoSafe Pro or EcoMite Pro. And so that's exactly what those guys were doing. So, yeah, so it's an interesting business, because I'm sure there was some serious lobbying done to make sure that was the case. So, and you know, I do want to, you know, do some more, just research on that product, because it was pretty interesting how they they said they were 100% organic, no wait time, and and so I do want to see if they're still alive and what's going on, because it is interesting, or if they change their tune. So it will be interesting to see where that company is right now. So we'll do that before the growing season. Does anybody else have any questions on, I did include kind of our site specific spreadsheets. So you can kind of see what we're doing in each specific park, and what we're proposing to do in 2022. So.
Nancy.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me? This is Nancy Peterson. And hi, Eric, hi, Hollis,
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
hi, other members of the commission. I would just like to say that, whatever method you are considering, chemical, manual, burn goats for the nature park, and maybe you have thought of this, but springtime is a very important time for birds in nature. And I would hope that you would consult with some experts about when you do these efforts to mitigate the weeds, so as to minimize the negative effects on any of the wildlife in the park.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, we can do that. And is Mary Harris still kind of the person to contact for that?
I think she would be a very good place to start. There's also Jim Kravitz, who's with ACES, and he might be another good person as far as helping. There's lots of really expert professionals here in the Valley who could assist.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. That's
You're
great.
welcome. And just so you know, I sent you and Hollis an email today that I hope you'll read.
We saw it. Thanks.
Great.
Nancy.
Thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
One thing I did forget to mention is, after we had, conducted those experimental test plots down at the nature park, and kind of weren't super happy with the results. We did use those plots also as a reseeding test too, and did, since we already had them fenced off and everything, we did do an overseed there, just to see when this spring, when things come up, when the growing season hits, we'll be able to go out there and just look and see if that reseeding helped some of those spots in the nature park that were, those more dirt spots that just weren't healthy as far as the grasses, the natural grasses down there. So because that reseeding is going to be an important piece of this whole process, to not let the noxious weeds just come back in and take over again. So we'll have a better report on how that worked, come spring growing time. So.
Any more questions or comments on the weed plan for Eric? Okay. Hey, Eric, you want to talk about the special events stuff?
Sure. So
Or is it other rooms?
last night at the trustee meeting, we did have, we were able to present our 2022 special events calendar and our street closure requests. And so this is kind of we don't need a decision on this, although I had a decision on the agenda here. So sorry, that was due to the timing. Decision's already been made by the trustee, so we don't need to advise them of the way we want to go with this. But I did want to share the calendar, and I wanted to also share the process with the Parks and Rec Commission. This has been going, the Special Event Task Force has been going on since 2013. It's a great way for us to get together as event producers, event promoters, and also to bring in any interested citizen that wants to come talk to the task force about overuse of a park or issues, noise issues or crowd issues of special events. And so since 2013, it's been one of those ad hoc committees where the citizens get involved and actually, create change and see the change firsthand through the special event process. So it's working really well. We had 2 meetings. We looked at all of our events last year and scrutinized those. And then we also had at the second meeting, really take a look at the 2022 calendar and try to iron that out for approval, for initial approval by the trustees early in January, which we did. So that allows us to then start to work with the individual event producers and get them lined out. So we're way ahead of the game. In the back of your packet there, I did include the minutes, and then behind the minutes are kind of our cheat sheets. And these are sheets that have been developed. There's a flow chart there. These have been developed for event producers that walk into my office and say, hey, I want to do this event. And so this is the first thing I hand them. And the first question I ask them has your event received permission from the Special Event Task Force? And, if they say no, then we can say, okay, we're kind of talking about an event that's going to take place next year. And so that gives us the great ability, if somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to do this huge event in a month, to say, hold on, it's not the way the process works. There's a much longer vetting process of your event, and you have to jump through all these hoops. And then we walk them through those hoops. So there's a flow chart that takes them to a spreadsheet, lets them know what event paperwork they need. And then there's actually a timeline, so they can kind of take a look at the timeline for their event and see how far in advance of that event do they need to get going on it. And so this really helps us train new special event people. It is pretty amazing with the nonprofits, how many new special event people come every year, even though it's the same event every year. We might be training somebody new to produce the event.
I know nothing of that. Nothing.
Right. So this has been really helpful for me in my job to get this whole process down on 2 pieces of paper that lets people really be trained in an hour's meeting with me and gets them started on a successful event. Once that paperwork's all done, we can sleep at night and know that the event's going to be pretty successful. They've thought it through because the paperwork causes them to think it through. A couple just moved events, wilderness workshops going from September to the June first Friday. The garden concert series from Thompson Park is moving to Bonnie Fisher Park. Last year, they got rained out from 3 out of their 4 events. So they need an indoor backup. So the 3rd Street Center will be their indoor backup. Festival Las Americas from May to June 26th in Sopers Park. And Potato Day will historically, we're trying to get it set to be the first Saturday in October. Unfortunately, this Saturday this year, that is October 1st. So we've usually had it after the October 1st Friday. And because we were staged for the first Friday, the parade, street closures already staged. This is the one year where that actually doesn't line up that way. So we talked to the school. We wanted to also bring it back to link up with homecoming week. So their homecoming's actually game is actually going to be on first Friday. So we'll start their homecoming week off with the Potato Day Parade and Potato Day festivities. And so they're willing to do that this year. And then it'll be lined up in future years. That first Saturday in October will be usually right after the first Friday. So new events, the Gymkhanas are coming back. That's not a new event, but
Hey, Eric, I got a question. Like,
yeah.
why didn't you just make that go on Saturday, the 8th then?
we had some conflicts of we have a conference that we haven't been to in 2 years that
Okay.
our staff would like to go do some additional training. And so
Okay.
there was a conflict with that. Yep. And so the Gymkhanas they have been in existence, but they have some new organizers. So they're interested in doing one a month. And so that'll be great use of our Gustarian riding arena. And then a new event, Carbondale Fall Festival. So that's we're not doing the Celtic Fest and Oktoberfest. So this would be more of a shoulder season, kind of tourist oriented event, produced, in that same time zone as our normal Celtic Fest and Oktoberfest, and utilizing the 4th Street Plaza Park. The canceled historical events, Green is the New Black Fashion Show.
Can we go back to that though? Like,
Huh?
what does that look like, this fall event thing? Because it's a whole weekend. So
Yeah.
they're gonna be organized things going on, or
Yeah,
are we
there'd
just
be-
promoting people? What is
Yeah,
it?
more of a, they're not exactly sure what it's gonna look like. But
Who's-
Michelle Marlowe, and the TCC, the Tourism Council of Carbondale,
Oh,
that's where the idea was born.
okay,
And so they're just looking at it as a kind of a shoulder season event, and to bring people to town.
okay.
And Eric, you also said because we're not doing the Oktoberfest, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're kind of filling that gap.
Was it a chamber sponsored thing?
No, I don't think so. It's Michelle has a event promotion company. So that's all we know about it at this present time. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then our Easter egg hunt, we're still going to produce our Where My Peeps At, scavenger hunt and healthy, 5K kind of, running event. So we're still going to produce that, but as far as the, utilizing the entire park for an Easter egg hunt, we are focusing more on and giving kids a bunch of plastic and candy. We're focusing more on healthy events.
Chokables.
Yeah.
They're all chocolates. These tiny erasers in the 1-year-old section every year. It was
Yeah.
a big plate in events commission.
Yeah, so we're focusing more on our mission and providing, healthy programming. So, and then, and so then we're kind of, back to First Fridays. We're going to maintain our street closures for First Fridays, do the longer street closures during the May, June, July, August, September months. And Mountain Fair does want to continue to utilize that Went Boulevard and between Went and 4th Street, and also the 579 park space too on Main. So,
Are they gonna do a little bit different system for who gets spots in different places for vendors, or did we talk about that at all in events? I've missed those.
no, I mean, the vendors did really well in
In both locations?
yeah,
Okay.
the best ever for most of the vendors.
Oh, that's great. Even in
Yeah.
the streets?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people, and I think a lot of the people that were walking around liked it too. Everybody commented like, this is really nice.
Cool.
Parades are really nothing new. There are traditional parades. We do want to bring back the 4th of July parade. So, and that's our, we do that a little differently. That's our kid-focused parade. That's the parade that has more kids in the parade than watching the parade.
For the bike one?
Yeah,
Overall,
yeah, and any type of wheel thing that they can come up with, and so it's unique in that sense. It's not a political parade. We want it to be a kids parade. So we'll bring that back, and I'll also have the and we'll have the parade and pool party. We also talked to Marty and Steve about, we had a concert last 4th of July, and so we might roll our pool party into an afternoon concert. So that's the idea there. Yeah, so that's really, the calendar is attached to that. And so that is a calendar that has been approved, but all those events are, subject to change, just due obviously to any public health issues that arise next year. So.
Eric, I had a question on your flow chart.
Yeah.
Why does it, I see where it says the event will sell alcohol to the public. It's under the not-for-profit, but there's nothing under the for-profit one about that.
Yeah, you can't get a special event liquor license if you're not attached to a nonprofit.
Oh. Okay. So what would be examples of, do we have any examples of like what would be a for-profit thing that we do?
I just looked up the Ascent Events, that's for the Fall Festival, and they're an organization that puts on events for somebody else, like they run the Valley View Foundation event, or they put on a wedding or something like that. So they're a for-profit organization.
Uh-huh.
So unless they come up with a plan for the Fall Festival that's somehow attached to a nonprofit, they're not gonna be able to sell liquor.
Yeah, and that's the way like
They're not gonna have a
Cowboy,
beer garden.
like that's the way Cowboy Up does it. They pick a nonprofit
Oh.
to benefit
Yeah.
each year, and so that nonprofits is how they get the liquor permit, and that's who benefits from the proceeds of the event. So they pick a different nonprofit every year. To
Okay.
benefit.
And so like the rodeo, that's they're a not-for-profit. So if they're selling beer or something down at the rodeos,
Well, not the rodeo itself, but one of the organizations.
I don't know. I just question,
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't
question.
understand. I was just like, it just caught I was like, well, where's the one for the
Yeah.
for-profit? So the for-profit would, that's where I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Event that we were gonna do, the women's climbing, it was like.
They would do kind of that same model as Cowboy Up. They would have a beneficiary that would be attached to the event. That is a nonprofit. So
But Cowboy Up is a for-profit thing?
it's just a organization. They're not for profit, but they're not a 501c3.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait a second. So
Hi,
what is
Brian.
the criteria here? Obviously, we're not requiring the organization to be a nonprofit, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to be something else doing it on behalf of a nonprofit. Is there all proceeds must go to, all profits must go to, a percentage of profits must go to? This is getting in arbitrary territory. So what are the requirements around what monies must go towards a 401c or 401c3 or whatever?
I don't know what the legal language is, but all the profits go to for the Cowboy Up event, all the profits go to the nonprofit that they're
they-
benefiting. Yeah. They don't they pay their expenses, all the proceeds then go to the nonprofit.
But is it asked in the form of a question to say, do you on your honor promise to give profits to some 401c3? Or what's the nature of the diligence here?
The events work the details out
Yeah.
themselves between it, because
Yeah.
whoever wants to put it on approaches the the nonprofit business and works it out with them. So nonprofit is not going to pull a liquor permit and hold that responsibility without getting something in return. Like, it wouldn't make sense for them to pull it and have the liability and then not see any of the proceeds. So whatever they work out, it's whatever the nonprofit requests, basically.
Okay, so the essence is bring your own permit.
Sorry,
Yes.
what was that?
The essence is bring your own permit. And the question should really be, do you have your own liquor permit? Yes, no. And if yes, you accept all responsibility. If no, you can't do this.
The event can't pull a liquor permit, the nonprofit has to.
And
Okay.
it's a special event liquor permit, so it's not like a liquor license. Does that make sense? Like,
It just kind of clarifies that the intent of what we're talking about here is not, do you qualify for these circumstances? That's all irrelevant. What's relevant is whether or not you've already applied and have had issued a qualifying license, and the circumstances don't really matter. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what you're asking, actually.
I mean,
We talked before about nonprofits and about what are the circumstances under which you are going to be able to serve things. But then the question quickly became, well, they kind of pull their own license and they get their own license, and it's not something that we really get involved in, which means that the question should really be, do you have a license to do this, and not do you meet X, Y, and Z circumstances? Because that's not relevant. Doesn't matter if it's a for-profit contributing to a nonprofit or any of those things. It just matters whether or not they have a qualifying license through whatever means they were able to get them.
Well, but the means is bringing it to the trustees, and that's where it's really vetted, because otherwise we wouldn't vote on it if it was a commercial venture to say, oh, we're, going to sell liquor at this event for, I don't know, for our own benefit. That's kind of the final hurdle that has to be cleared in terms of that process. I don't know if that helps clarify it, Brian.
I guess the question is, why is this a gating function? If it is, you are eligible to get a license to do this thing and you've already acquired the license, why is there an additional gating function? Just where we ask whether or not they have this, and if it's for the benefit of a nonprofit. I mean, in reality, like when it comes down to it, if they said, yes, it's a for-profit entity, and the question becomes, are you proposing to donate? Are you proposing that all the benefit of this function goes towards a nonprofit? That seems really loose.
But the for-profit entity cannot get a special event liquor permit. So that's a moot point, because the only entity that can get a special event liquor permit for any event on town land, and it goes through the process of the trustee approval process, is a nonprofit. So,
And who issues the permit?
the town does through, so that nonprofit would fill out a special event liquor license associated to an event. We would have that event paperwork associated to that license. So it's one package that goes to the trustees. It also has letters of all the rules for getting a special event liquor license too. You have to have your certificate of good standing from the state as a nonprofit. You also have to have letters showing that you have permission or a lease to use the space that you're conducting the event. And so that whole packet from the nonprofit then goes to the trustees for approval. And that person is supposed to actually be on site and present that to the trustees and be there for questions. So that's how it works. So the for-profit, if he's involved in the event, is just as a secondary to the event. We get a certificate of insurance and with liquor liability from the nonprofit, not from the for-profit entity that's involved. Does that make sense?
It does. So the question with respect to Parks and Rec is, whether or not they have obtained through any mechanism, qualifications, or whatever, the appropriate permit, and the circumstances under which they have that are really NA to Parks and Rec, right?
Yeah, because we, that's all detailed in our paperwork. So we feel confident our paperwork's gonna, cover all those bases.
And Eric, is this like developed elsewhere that we've adopted? Like we aren't really in charge of creating this or whatever? I mean, is this a state law, a local law? I
Yeah,
mean, is it our police?
The liquor,
force?
the liquor laws are.
Yeah, so that, so
something we
it's.
have not
We're not the
created
town of
yet.
So we aren't the one that made this up. We're just following the laws that are there.
Yes. the liquor
Okay.
laws, Yeah.
You
state
used to
liquor
have to
laws.
submit the paperwork to the state, and luckily in recent years, now we can do it through the town.
Yeah.
The town clerk can handle that paperwork.
But it's
But
done
that
through the
liquor,
state
that
liquor
special,
laws.
yeah, exactly, that special event liquor
So-
license.
Yeah.
All
is a
right, I
state
didn't
thing.
mean to like open this whole thing up with stuff we don't even have any control over. But it just like struck me when I was looking at this. So anyway, does anyone else have anything else? I go down more legal rabbit hole somewhere.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. I feel like the state's kind of discriminating against, like, what if a restaurant wanted to throw a big festival and sell booze? They couldn't, or they could use their own liquor license. Like if I guess Mikasita isn't a thing anymore, but I don't
Well,
know. Whorehouse wanted to throw a big festival in the park.
On town land, they'd have to jump through these rules. Now,
They
remember
would have
they
to
had a
find
concert
another
at
private
RVR, right? When they had their own liquor
If it's not.
permit,
town.
it was on private land. They can, do a
Picking
lot.
it up, picking up what you're putting down. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Rose, that was kind of my point, to say that we should just step out of this totally. And if somebody has a license that's qualified for them to have booze, have booze.
Right,
And we should just say have license, not have license, and
Right.
that's kind of the involvement.
but we
and-
can't do that. That's a.
only if
state
it's
thing.
on private land,
Oh,
like
right,
they
it's
did
on
in
private
RVR.
land.
Yeah,
Wow,
we,
that's-
the only thing we were involved with there is just crowd management, and they rented our stage. Well, we donated, but
I learned something new today.
Presumably, if they had a liquor license or whatever to sell booze, it would be for the appropriate type of land. We should say, do you have a license that covers this event? Yes, no, and that should kind of be it. And if they say, no, we don't have one, we only have one that covers private land, obviously that doesn't qualify. But we should uninvolve ourselves as much as possible from that process, because it's not something that we have control over whatsoever. And we shouldn't do diligence, we shouldn't do whatever. It should basically be a Boolean. Yes, no, maybe with proof of, to go file away in case somebody gets audited. But other than that, just totally step out.
Does that make sense, Eric, or does it? I mean,
um,
if you try to implement, I mean, is that implementable? I mean, I think it's good in theory, Brian, but I'm not sure that would.
yeah, no, this is the paperwork that exists, the bureaucratic paperwork that exists is all necessary.
Mhm.
So to have a public event on public land where you're inviting the public and there's alcohol being served, this paperwork's all necessary.
Yeah, and you have a system that works now.
Yeah.
And it's working, so I didn't mean to open
No.
a can of worms
No, I'd
questioning the
love to streamline it,
process.
but I'd love to get rid of some of the paperwork, but it's, for every event that the public's invited and there's alcohol served, this is the process that they have to go through.
Wow.
Okay. You good, Brian? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it seems fine. See, it seems more involved than we need to be outside of this. We have a verification role, and that's it. So we should just minimize it and not involve ourselves beyond the degree which is legally required, and be done with it.
Okay. Any other question? Eric, was there anything else you wanted to highlight on the special events before we move on to Red Hill signs?
No, but hopefully we can pull off all these events. We got a good calendar coming back, and it provides vibrancy and revenue and brings people to town. So hopefully we can pull it all off.
Okay. All right. Red Hill signs.
Yeah, so we're in kind of the final stage of the Red Hill sign verbiage and production and map making, rule setting, trail rules, etiquette, and there's been a lot of partners and stakeholders with this project. So it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would to make sure that this permanent signage that's going up there is correct. And so it's been vetted now through the BLM, the Red Hill Council, Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association. And now it's, kind of coming to us, for just final look. So what's in front of you is the big panels that are on the kiosk up there. The kiosk is already built. So these are, really 7 foot 4 inch panels of space that we're going to fill with these representations so right now, of course, it looks like they're super small and obviously very hard to read, but these are going to be very large signs. So just wanted to share that with everybody. The schematic concept piece right here, kind of in this lower corner shows you the dimensions of those signs. So you can kind of get an idea of how big they are. So 3 feet 4 inches would be like the map by 2 feet 4 inches. So it's a fairly big sign showing you just the Red Hill mapping area. So I just wanted to bring this to everybody where we did translate as much as possible trail rules and etiquette, the hiking with dogs etiquette, the biological soil crust of Red Hill education piece was translated also, the leave no trace was translated, and then the Red Hill Council kind of history was translated also. Couple things that are going to change on it. We have some details to kind of put in here. We are adding the Sea Line Trail. So that's going to be a secondary downhill only bike exit off of the whole trail system. Right now, the only bike exit on the whole trail system is Beeline, and that's pretty substantial double black diamond kind of trail. And so the Sea Line will represent a much easier exit off of the system. So the signage will, the Sea Line is going through an environmental assessment through the BLM right now. There's about 200 feet of the Sea Line Trail that's on BLM land. So we have to jump through the hoops of the BLM to make sure that that's going to be an approved trail section. And since we already did an environmental assessment of the other trail sections, we're able to look at just an adequacy of that original environmental assessment and hopefully get a determination of adequacy on that original one to add this 200 feet of additional trail. So we should know about that pretty soon. BLM's working on that right now. So this would go out to as an RFP to assign manufacturer, since it's already designed. Once we get the final design next week, it will go out as an RFP to get produced. The other RFPs, just to bring you up to speed on what else is happening up there, is the landscaping and picnic shade shelter, outdoor classroom structure. So that's getting final engineer look right now, and we'll also go out as an RFP. That's, if you recall, that is part of the Resilient Communities GOCO grant that Aspen Valley Land Trust received. So that's going to be a part of that project. So that's what's going on with Red Hill. We hope to get that project and the sign project completed by early spring. So we'll have those RFPs hopefully be due in the end of February. So we'll have enough time to lock down some contractors and get going on that in early spring. Any questions or any concerns about sign language.
Ashley's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered the reason why. I can tell with the lower part of Red Hill, probably why there's no distances listed, but as you're looking at the larger map, I think those are usually helpful to have on a kiosk. So what was the decision for not listing the distance of each segment?
Oh, I see what, yeah, I know what you're saying here.
That's a good point, though. That is really helpful to have distances if you want to figure out how long a hike you want to take.
To have like little markers like you do on Park Service where this, and from this intersection to this one is so long. Would be really useful.
Okay, thanks. That's good feedback. I'll see. You know, it wasn't a conscious decision to leave it off of there by anybody for any reason. So, you know.
And it's okay that the map verbiage is not in Spanish? I don't know exactly how you get it in there, but
Yeah, I thought we originally talked about doing both.
yeah. And the other thing, I thought the seasonal closure on Bogus Trail, isn't that back at Bogus and Ferry?
Yeah, so that's, we found that too on the original. So we're pulling Bogus out of the seasonal closure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing I saw in the verbiage on the map, it refers to recommended dog leashes. But then down in the picture, it shows a leash required. And also in the rules and etiquette, it says a leash is required. I just know this is just, and on another pages, it said something else. Oh, hiking with dogs, it says something about a leash suggested or whatever. It's such a contentious issue, somehow making it be really consistent and really clear. And also, I don't know, describing enforcement in some way. They're gonna have to go pull weeds at the park somewhere.
I like that. I like that.
1 hour parking service or-
The other thing from a design aspect for me there's a lot of different fonts on panel 2. Like,
Susan, is your microphone on?
oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know, is it?
It seems like
It's not, it's, can't hear anything. Thanks.
You know, like the bike etiquette, that label should be repeated at the top and maybe just say dog etiquette. And maybe have more pictures instead of so much verbiage. I just don't imagine people are going to stand there and read stuff, right? They look at pictures and if a picture jumps out at them, they go, oh, but, you know, people like me are going to sit around and read stuff like the soil crust, but I don't know. Those are just some thoughts I had.
Okay. Yeah, like the size you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Like the
But-
font size and
Font size, like, you know, the same design elements all the way around.
Okay.
It should be, and the same font is, all the headings should be the same fonts. And then the acknowledgements is lovely. It takes up a lot of space. The Red Hill Council, that part. And I don't know if somehow could be combined with the Aspen Valley Land Trust part. And also something I've always struggled with up there is there's nobody to contact if you have a question.
yeah, what we're gonna
or
do,
concern.
we're gonna put a QR code there.
Okay.
So yeah, when I went to the Red Hill Council and they looked at this, so we haven't made those changes yet, but yeah, there's gonna be a QR code that takes people to their.
Somehow
website.
to
Yep,
ask a question, who do I contact?
Yep. Great, good observations. Those are some of the same ones they came up with, so that's great.
I guess more generally, I should probably ask, do we have somebody that is a kind of user experience centric person that looks at these types of things?
I mean, on staff or just on consultants or?
In the process somewhere. If we're getting feedback that's largely UX related, it would behoove us to have UX related advice somewhere in the development cycle for signage. Does that happen?
You know, so many eyes have looked at this. I'm gonna say yes. You know, that, you know, because the BLM's looked at it, the council's looked at it. Norfolk Outdoor Volunteers, RFMBA.
So when it gets created, who what function creates it?
Lindsay's husband, what's his name?
What do you mean by what function? I mean, the need creates it.
What is the job of the person who literally creates the layout for the signage?
Oh, just a graphic artist. And she was provided with 90% of this information from all the stakeholders.
Got it. So typically a graphic artist would work in conjunction with somebody focused on user experience. So the graphic artist does things from the artistic perspective. They look at print layout, design layout, things like that. And a UX person looks at the use cases of the person who's going to consume it and whether or not that fits their use cases. And those two roles kind of work hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think I get what you're saying, and I think it's definitely been covered because, you know, the Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association has had their eyes all over this as far as the biking experience. The Red Hill Council has had their eyes all over this as far as the history of the entire you know, trail system and the new trails, and they're all people that are feet on the tires on the ground. You know, BLM has had, you know, a good look at this. So I think collectively, yeah, that has definitely happened with this project.
Okay, so I would say that, you know, this is a great process to go through. If we find that we end up here often where we have people giving usability related feedback to signage, we may want to consider a usability minded person in the process, but so far this seems like a great start to it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I definitely hear that, but I think I'm hearing your concern, and I'm feeling like that has happened organically through the stakeholders that have been involved in this process.
Well, there's a difference between somebody who has a professional eye for it and somebody who doesn't. I mean, I make software products for a living, and I've seen firsthand that a ton of eyes on something does almost zero for usability. And because we release something that 30 people have looked at and it goes to customers and they ask us what we were thinking.
Right.
So,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
there's a difference.
Yeah, it happens more often than not. I hear you.
Yeah, it turns out I am a terrible representative of UX, as are most engineers and most people that are not focused just on that. So it is its own thing. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but at the same time, if we want to make it a purposeful objective to say that we want people to be able to look at signage and things like that and immediately understand how they should consume it, that is in itself its own profession that works in conjunction with design. It doesn't need to be done now. I'm just saying that if we get a lot of feedback on a constant basis about, you know, hey, this is really what I need out of this signage or these types of things, we should consider people that specialize in that area.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. Let's see what you're saying.
I had another comment on the trail courtesy for bike etiquette. It says that bikes and people yield to horses, but there's another sign that says there's no horses. I mean, I know that sign, it was just pulled from somewhere else, but.
Yeah. So how the BLM manages horses on these two parcels, really, because we're talking about the town parcel and then we're talking about a BLM parcel, is when we did the environmental assessment with them for the new trails, that's when they decided to not allow horses on the front side trails. Horses are still allowed on the Sudi Ranch access trails.
Oh. Is there a different sign over by Sudi Ranch?
I'm not sure about that. So yeah, because that would be a BLM.
Or,
Yeah.
well, so maybe this no horses thing needs to be changed on the first panel.
Well, so if you'll see on it's hard to see, but on the big map, you'll see on those, there's a little symbol on, you know, Ruthie's, Beeline Spur, Beeline Lower Three Gold, Sea Line. Those are all no horses on those trails.
Oh, okay.
And then once it gets into that BLM land, then horses are allowed. So all the steep front side trails are where the horses aren't
I
allowed.
get you. I'm just, I wouldn't know that from what I could see on the sign at this scale. So I don't know. And the bike etiquette one, I can't tell. It doesn't look like it's written in Spanish.
Look at that too. Okay. Okay, awesome, great suggestions.
I have a couple more I just want to throw out there since you're taking notes and reporting back.
You bet.
I typically see trailhead as one word and I think it's done differently, but it's two on here and I would just confirm what that convention should be. And on the map one and also on the map one, it seems like strange capitalization under trail rules and etiquette. The pink text says visitors make the difference and it's all capped. That just seems to stick out strangely.
See what that is.
I see that, okay. So do we know if trailhead is one word or two words?
I just Googled it and it usually comes up as one. I use it as one in my documentation, but I haven't confirmed it.
Okay, thanks. We'll check into that. Excellent. Any other suggestions, or this is very helpful?
I just have one quick little one. I just want to make sure that when they print the signs that they are adding the adequate amounts on the sides so that when they get put into the wooden pieces that are holding it, that none of the signage gets covered up. Just because I've seen that on other signs and that's
Yeah.
really upsetting, especially with all the work that you've said 1 million eyes have been on this. So
Yeah,
if
awesome.
all of that work gets cut out, you know, because we can't read the last 4 letters of everything below etiquette would be such a bummer, or the miles if we added on the front of the other sign. So, yep, just making sure the printing matches with the mounting. Thank you.
Perfect.
Hey, Eric,
Yes,
sorry, also when you send them out to the printers, I've noticed that there's a lot of fading that goes on with blues in this climate for some reason, blue inks and dark inks from the sun. So you might want to check what, you know, when you send it to the printer, what your exposure will be and things like that.
okay, great.
Isn't it built with a shade?
Yeah, it won't be directly in the sun, but
Get
it still have UV, you know, degradation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'll look at that. So
Good comments and catches, everybody.
yeah, thanks.
Really good.
That helps.
Anything else? Okay,
Great work. Thanks for all the work that you put in and getting.
yay, this is getting exciting.
Good work.
Come to
Running
fruition.
third and headed home.
Let's hope.
Is the end gonna be centered?
What are you
For north?
talking about?
For the little circle with north in it? On mine, at least, it's not centered. Is it gonna be centered? It's kind of driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's not centered on mine either.
Not centered in the gray circle behind
Yeah.
it.
I see it. I think that's more of a,
Just make sure.
A design
That's
thing.
annoying.
might be a design thing, but
Oh, he's
Oh,
on
yeah.
purpose to
yeah,
like.
I think it's
look
on
cool?
purpose.
All right.
It doesn't look cool. It
I
looks like
don't
a
think it looks cool.
mistake. It looks like a
Motions move the
mistake. I
end
didn't
to
even
the-
notice that.
I'll ask. For it. I'll ask.
Ashley, do you like that design thing?
Yeah, Ashley, what do you think?
I put the image down, so now I can't see it. I'm not gonna let it bother me,
I think
but,
you're okay.
Oh, somebody else said something? Nope.
Okay. All right. Okay, Eric, on we go. with the
so,
aquatics master plan, and we're a little bit behind schedule.
Okay, I can move through this one pretty quick. So last night at the Board of Trustees meeting, we had our, the resolution number 3, series of 2020, authorizing a Tabor, aquatics facility bond election, which will happen on April 5th, 2022. We've been working with Hilltop Securities, which is our financial advisors, and they work with Butler Snow, which is a bond counsel, legal counsel. And so they're the ones who, put together the ballot language, and also the parameters were discussed last night by Hilltop Securities. Just to explain to the trustees, as our financial advisors, why they recommended a scenario 3. So I included that spreadsheet in your packet, and we are utilizing these financial advisors to walk us through this very complicated, bonding process. And that they spent some time with the trustees last night, and the trustees were able to ask some questions on how this all works and why they recommended scenario 3 out of that total repayment amounts and for the ballot parameters. And so the trustees were able to look at the ballot language, had some questions on the ballot language in the resolution. We're able to add to a piece of the ballot language. What you have in your packet doesn't include what they added to it. And what they added to it is in the actual ballot question language in the first bullet point, the one that says the proceeds of such debt to be used for the construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of park and recreation facilities, including an aquatic center. They wanted to be a little bit more specific there and add to the end of that sentence to replace the existing facility. We had some discussion about that because they wanted to make sure that the voter knows what the town would go into debt for, is to replace our they went through some language, aging facility, our failing facility, our and that language wasn't appropriate for a ballot question. So but they did want to add to replace the existing facility, so people know where that money's being used. The thing that is the most really important for us to really look at is, this is a question for the public, whether or not we want to go into debt. And the biggest part about that question, I think, that we need to focus on is, do you want to go into debt without raising your taxes and without raising your sales tax in the town, without raising the property taxes in the town, using an existing recreation sales and use tax and our sales tax proceeds at the general fund level. And so that's really the most important part of, for me, this bond language. We're asking the public to say, yes, we need an aquatic facility in this town. And we're willing to go into debt to do so. That's all that this is asking. It's not asking them to open up their wallet and pay out an additional amount that they aren't already paying. And so that's super important, I think, for all of us to realize, because ballot language is ballot language. It's confusing. It's it's yelling at you, and it's all caps, and it and it's hard to get through sometimes. But that's the message. We really feel like we're going to be able to build a new facility there without raising any taxes. So we saw great support on the trustee level, for a new aquatic facility. Some of the questions were, what if this didn't pass? Where are we with our present facility, and how long can we keep it functional? And our original master plan, did look at 5 different tiered structured improvement levels of our existing aquatic facilities. Some of those were renovation based. Still, their recommendation was still even on the renovation base, because it was going to be expensive just to renovate the facility to make it ADA compatible and to bring it up to speed for even just the bathhouse itself. That original master plan, did recommend an increase in sales tax to do so. When we went to the aquatics facility master plan specific, the GOCO grant funded project, planning grant, those experts that they had as their consultants looked at the facility and said, you'd be wasting your time and money to try to renovate this facility. It's a scrape. So that was some of the questions the trustees had last night. And why isn't there some options, of just renovating our existing facility in this last master plan we did, and that's why. And so that was, we just let them know that's why that wasn't part of that process. But there's great support, for the project. The trustees had some questions on fundraising, grant writing, and where that fits into this process. And so, maybe we need to have the engineering and pool designers look at a $6 million, $7 million project, so we have that cushion and that leeway to do those extra pieces that we might need. So especially on the energy efficiency side, that's going to be a big piece of this project to make this very energy efficient pool. So also, with our work with Butler Snow, that legal counsel, I was able to ask them some questions that we had after our last meeting, when we kind of talked about, what is the Parks and Rec Commission's role in regards to abiding by a Fair Campaign Practices Act. And so we were able to ask them, and I did include that in your packet, kind of the questions that were asked, and then the responses that were received to those questions. One of the responses was from Kim Crawford, and then we had Mark Hamilton, our legal counsel with the town, also take a look at those questions. And so please, read through that, make yourself familiar with that. You as a citizen of Carbondale, can share your opinion on the ballot question. You just can't spend any money that you don't have, because we don't have a line item for the Parks and Rec Commission anyways, but no town money can be spent on a pro or con on a ballot issue. And so, Mark said, so if there's going to be any campaign committee or an organized group, I prefer that be a private effort, separate and apart from the Parks and Rec Commission's official functions. But having commissioners members speak out individually or send letters to the paper, etc., would be fine, so long as no public funds were expended. So you as a private citizen, can write a letter to the editor, and can, get on, can campaign for it, just not in your official role as a Parks and Rec Commission member. So
we can campaign, because I thought before it said that we couldn't.
That's if you were a decision-making.
Right, okay, we're back to those words, got it.
Yep.
No, done.
Yeah, so, so I think, we will want to get a citizens-driven committee together. I'll be talking to Margaret Donnelly about, some of the people that she has on her list. And, we've already had 2 letters to the editor, that were not
supportive.
Misinformed and misinformed, non-supportive
Yeah.
and misinformed. And so, we do have some, public correction, and we can state the facts, And that's what we're gonna need to do throughout this process, is just provide the public with the facts of the rec sales and use tax and how it can be used and what it can be used for, and what it can't be used for, and what its purpose is. So that's where we're at right now. But it's so we're gonna have an election in April, which is great. Great thing, you know, it's our next step in this process. So.
Any questions, comments?
I thought it was an important part that was brought out at the just a couple of points at the trustees meeting. The one about that, and I think it's in the ballot language, but it's kind of buried, that this is a Parks and Rec tax that we're using. It can't be used for housing or 8th Street or anything else. So it's kind of important to have that as part of our outreach, educational outreach efforts.
But the general fund money, this is where I was
The
getting
general fund's kind of
confused.
a backup, right? I mean, it's really supposed to mostly come from the sales and use tax, right?
I mean, it's dedicated for that purpose. And I think with the increase of that we're seeing with that tax, you know, there's very little, I think, of a gap to cover.
Right.
Because there's that, you know, it's been brought up, there's just a small 2-year overlap between the current bond and the new bond.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think there's a huge concern about saying, oh, well, this is not something we can afford. It's a current existing tax that we're using without raising anyone's taxes to cover this. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, to your point, has to do around the messaging of this. And as Eric and even Erica pointed out, the fact that, you know, some of the criticism comes from people who actually have access to a private pool is kind of rich. So, but it's true. It's, you know, this is a facility for everyone in the town and in the surrounding communities. So.
And the other issue I thought was important from the trustees was a woman who's over here concerned that, oh, are we building an $8 million facility that's going to go over budget? Or are we building a $6 million, $7 million that if it goes over budget, we're still covered by an $8 million bond? And the latter is the intent. But the question was raised in terms of grant funding and such, is that to cover extras beyond the 7 million budget? Or is that to bring the $8 million budget down to a $6 million budget?
Yeah.
And
No, those are good. I think those
they're
are
good
valid
questions.
questions. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are really good questions, because I think it's first getting to this point to say, all right, it's approved. And then after that, realizing, you know, our construction costs.
What will they do in the next 4 years?
Well, and one advantage we have too, with everything being recorded, is we can go back and we can actually listen. That was one of my intentions to do today. I didn't get to it, but I plan to listen to it this week. So I'm kind of informed and hear firsthand what the discussion was and how, you know, the ballot language was presented and stuff like that. So I think it would be good for all of us to spend, you know, 20 or 30 minutes, however long it took to listen to that. John, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Is there estimated retirement of this bond, a time frame for when it's going to be retired?
It'd be a 25-year bond, but that's not set in stone either. We still have a opportunity to look at shortening that, lengthening that, you know. So but right now it's slated as a 25-year bond.
Okay, and also it's probably just a simple little typo, but it's pretty big here in your in the letter in the analysis paragraph. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. The not to exceed the maximum repayment cost, not to exceed $14,433 million. Don't you think that ought to be a pure
Oh, yeah.
decimal point instead of a comma?
Yep. Got it.
$14,000 million is that's quite a lot of money.
Gold plating.
Yeah. So Anyway, just a simple little typo. It's
Good.
corrected in the official resolution. So that's all right. That's all I got.
I'm curious, does the city put out a blue book like thing like the state does on pros and cons of ballot issues?
We normally don't, but I mean, you can, but it has to cover both the pros and cons. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It can't be either way, so.
Cool.
Anything else?
Can't wait to go swimming.
So this goes forward and we start construction in 2 years or 3 years and it's closed for a whole year while this gets built and then it's open the next year?
Yeah, I mean, the thought process is to look at a, earlier closure in like a September. And then you'd start construction and a later opening. So that's the perfect scenario, right?
Oh, you could build it during the winter.
Yep, and build, and in 1 year, in one season, and not lose a full season. It's construction, so, but that's the idea, so.
We close it Labor Day and open it 4th of July.
Yep. Yeah, in the perfect world. Yeah.
Perfect. We keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on the pool? Aquatics facility? All right. All right, Eric, continuing on. Updates?
Yeah, so we're busy.
Anything lately?
Yeah, we're busy. We are busy. It's
Had a
good.
vacation?
So I'll let Jesse talk about all the rec center stuff, but as far as the 30, 60, 90, yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming for springtime. We've got a lot of projects coming down the pike here, so we're just gonna just keep checking them off. But some of the most important ones we need to get accomplished in a timely manner will be the Gateway RV Park Wi-Fi, radio Wi-Fi project. So that needs to be done before May. And also we're in the final stage of our multi-year project to get the 3050 amp pedestals finished. So there's only 5 more spots out there that just need to get connected. We don't need to do any more ripping up of the park. Everything's conduits all buried. So that's going to be a focus for me to get that one done before we open, of course. Then the other big one I'd like to get going is our replacement of the Hendricks playground. So that's another big funded project for this year that'll take some time to get bid it out and get going. The other thing that's another big project that's looking like it's coming to fruition is the Crystal River and Weaver Ditch Efficiency Project. So if we receive, there's 2 more grants in the hopper right now. If those are received, the project is fully funded. So the construction, we just had a meeting last week, and the construction of that project, we had talked earlier about how there was a smaller window placed on us due to the whitefish population in that river stretch, and a small window of construction timeframe for that has been extended. So up until September 30th, construction can happen. So in the river, construction obviously can't happen at runoff, but upland improvements to the project could happen, during that time. And then they could probably get in the river probably in, July, and have a couple months of construction to get the project done by late September. so that's where that project is. I just wanted to share that because it's a big move on that project. A lot of those wrenches in that project are now gone, and it's going to move forward pretty quickly when it does happen. So if these grants are received, the project team will probably move forward and get this project built. So it's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, and those are kind of the big ones I just wanted to share that are necessary and coming down the pike. So any other questions on any 30, 60, 90?
No, it's gonna go on to another page, Eric.
I know.
Keep them straight. Oh.
That's it for me. So Jesse.
We're having our membership appreciation sale at the rec center. So buy 3 months, get one free. We added a new fitness class Mondays and Wednesdays at noon called Strength and Stretch. Our 2 vaccination clinics in December were fairly well attended. We did 121 at the first one and 75 at the second one. And then our programming going on right now, youth basketball games just started this week. And then we've got adult broomball, youth art, adult volleyball, youth climbing. And we've got a cooking class later this month. And then blood drives will continue the first Wednesday of every month. We did First Friday last week, and it was probably the quietest I've ever seen Main Street ever. The liquor store was closed, which tells you the state of things in town. And somebody from the paper came down because Aspen was so dead. They came to see what was happening in Carbondale to try to write a story about something.
It was the story, I guess. It's
They
like
had the
quiet all around.
It was the staff standing around the fire pit, hoping people would come and hang out with us. Yeah, we had a decent turnout. Some kids came by. We gave them
Hey.
hot dogs and marshmallows, and some people sort of skated. So
Represent.
it was still a good First Friday, just very, very quiet.
And Eric was shoveling the rink beforehand to make sure everything was perfectly Zambonied, so that was nice.
Man bonied, we call it.
Man bonied. Man bonied.
Both ice rinks are good, thanks to Eric right now.
We had that Christmas rain, snow, sleet, slush, and then people went out and skated on the rinks and destroyed them. I mean, then it froze in place. So yeah, it took us a long time to get them back, but right now they're great. So it took us a long time.
Eric,
Get
you
'em
need
back.
to be careful on that ice with your new hip.
Put my crampons on out there.
At the
You
same
can
time,
be
I do
still
just
dead.
want to say thank you. I work in a pretty large organization, and to see a director of anything out there with a shovel it makes me proud that I'm a part of this team. And I'm appreciative of your time as a director. You know, you're not like, hey, go hire someone, do something. Like, you're out there shoveling. And I'm like, I know that guy. That's awesome. You know, so thank you.
It's a passion project, you know.
Still, I appreciate it.
Well, and everybody else has COVID too, by the way. So.
Everybody else has COVID. Yeah. That too.
Right, right. Anything else, Jess?
I think that's it for now.
Just don't worry, none of the kids are coming to school either.
They do like to come to the rec center though.
Luis, you got anything for us?
No big updates. I think Eric covered pretty well what was discussed at the trustee meeting last night, so.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up and ask you guys about is Kathleen's position. Or the open position that we have right now. And one of the things that we talked about last year when we were looking at, you know, when we went to the trustees and they revised the code and, added another position, we clarified the youth commissioner thing and stuff like that, was how we can get into a better cycle of staggered terms. And so right now, we just had three people whose term started, which is Susan, John, and Leslie. The only person who's right now, whose position expires in 2022 is the Youth Commission position. So it's Misha's, which of course, Misha, you can reapply if you want to do it for another year. So that means in 2023, what the position that Kathleen just vacated would be up. Myself, Rose, Ashley, and then Brian was appointed as our alternate. So we have quite an abundance of people. That's one, two, three, that's 4 regular voting position and an alternate that's going to go in 2023. So, you know, we could at this point decide as a group that this position that Kathleen just vacated would then, you know, shift to expiring this year. And then that, you know, if we want to do that, then that raises the question of, do we still want to go out then? And the other piece to it too, Brian, which I wanted to ask you too, is if you were interested in becoming a full voting member, or if you wanted to remain as an alternate, which just think about that a second. But we could actually make this position, this open position one that would then expire in 2022, and then that person could get appointed, and then the expiration would be for that term would be in 2025. Am I making sense? Okay. They're 3-year terms. They're 3-year terms.
Except for the youth position, which is.
Except
1
for
year.
the youth commissioner position, which is 1 year.
Oh, we've talked about that before too, because if you're using it as your project, what's it called?
The capstone.
Capstone project, then you need 2 years, right?
Yeah, but they can
Apply
be,
again.
they just reapply and get reappointed.
And there's
So
7 of us then?
there are 7 voting positions and one alternate, and then the youth commissioner is an alternate. Mhm. You know, and so in 2023, this is the other thing to think about too, in 2023, when Hollis, Rose, and Ashley are up, you know, one of those terms could also then, you know, get shifted,
Yeah.
you know.
it's figuring out a way
So
to
there's
do
better
that.
better staggered, and everything is, you know, we aren't losing half of the commission in 1 year. That's what you want to avoid. So I just wanted to bring that up and get some thoughts. Because if we, I guess two pieces, if we do want to shift this open position to expire in 2022, which would then be in about 6 months, 8 months. Do we want to go out and find somebody then for that amount of time and then they would reapply, or do we want to keep it open? So it's kind of a 2-pronged kind of question.
A little bit of an answer from Brian. I mean, if he would walk into that position
Mm-hmm,
for 6 months,
mm-hmm,
then he could reapply to the same position, and that would be 3 years from then.
correct.
So if he,
Well, let's first off, Brian, are you interested in stepping up to a full voting member? I don't know, how do you say that?
Yeah, I could certainly do that. I think the other alternative would be just to leave it open and wait 6 months to recruit, such that we have somebody that can serve the full time, but I'm happy to bridge the gap if that's what's needed.
I mean, I don't know.
That could just resolve it. Well, I mean,
What do we need to do?
we probably still have to go through the process, right, Eric?
Yeah,
We
it
would
still
go
has to, just go to the trustees as he moving out of an alternate to full-time. But that's just the paperwork, so.
So then this also then gives us the opportunity then to look at that, the expiration of the alternate as well. So we could then go, and shift that where, what am I saying here? Because that,
Right now, you would have 1 year where you would have 3 positions renewed, 1 year where you would have 4 positions renewed, and 1 year where you have nothing.
actually,
Except for every year you have a new.
correct. But the alternate is also on the same in 2023. So there's me, Rose, Ashley,
5 positions.
and the alternate in Brian's position right now in 2023. So
That's
we-
4.
Plus Kathleen.
plus Kathleen's empty position. So we could shift Kathleen's position to expire in 2022. Brian could apply to do that. And then that would open up the alternate position, which we could then move into expiring in 2022.
Would you
And
like
fill
to get
that.
to a place where you have 3, 3, and 2?
Yeah, more even.
3 years, you have 3, 3, and 2, 3, 3.
We would have 3,
3, 2, 3.
3, 2, 3, other than the youth commissioner. 3, 2, 3. So that'd be a little bit more.
You'd have 1 position in the alternate in 1 year.
Susan, turn your mic on, please.
Sorry, you'd have 1 position in the alternate in 1 year. You'd have 3 in another year, and you have 3 in another year.
Mhm. Yeah. Which would be the way we'd have to, that would be the most even we could get it. And the youth commissioner every year. So that doesn't. Okay, any
So-
thoughts?
How many do we have expiring this year besides
Misha,
Kathleen?
period.
Just the student,
Yep, that's it.
unless we dedicate,
Shift,
unless we shift Kathleen's to this year.
correct. And then,
And if Brian takes Kathleen's, would his expire this year or next year, like it would normally be?
it would expire, the thought is that it would expire this year, but then he could reapply and then it'd be for 3 years. So it'd be getting this term shifted.
Yeah, but
And
it's-
then that vacates the alternate position, which can also then be moved to expire this year. And that sets us up into a better staggered position.
but if Brian doesn't take Kathleen's spot, then his alternate would expire in 2023.
Yes. And then there's 1, 2, 3,
That would be 4 in 2023.
that'd be 4 and the youth, so that'd be 5. But the youth is gonna be every year.
That's every year anyway.
Yeah.
So if Brian said yes, he'll accept the short term
Mhm,
now,
mhm.
Yes.
then we leave the alternate open.
We could.
And then
mhm.
in August, we put out for 1 member and 1 alternate.
Yes.
Seems like it gets on that track pretty quickly doing it that way. Do you need a motion?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we probably do.
If you're gonna do that, doesn't it need to be noticed?
Yeah. but it
So
need
we
to be
notice, so we'll
noticed.
do it next month
Yeah,
then.
we'll have to do that next month, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we even make a motion then now? No, we just bring it up. Well, I wanted to bring it up to get you guys' opinion. I mean, do you think that's a good way that we go then? And then we can take action on it next month?
I
Sure.
think it seems logical. I don't have a strong opinion about it one way or another. I think some of this just works out organically or has in the past, but I'm kind of neutral to it all.
I would like to see it kind of evened out. Instead of 1 and then 4 the next year, even that out. This plan does seem to help that.
I mean, Ashley, I think one of the ways that we got kind of this got kind of potentially jumbled up is when we've had people that have stepped onto the commission to fulfill somebody's term, but they weren't really finishing the term. They were then appointed for 3-year terms. So it got kind of the procedure just kind of got messed up so that when that happens, is what kind of messes up with the staggering. But this is where Eric and I have been like talking, all this procedure stuff that I was working on last year to try to get everything straight, because he was trying to read Jeff's notes and all this other stuff. It was kind of crazy. So anyway, this just sets us up and it'll be easier then to follow. And then you don't have a huge turnover, because I mean, if people don't want to reapply, you could end up, with half your commission disappearing, in 1 year. So anyway, all right, we'll bring that up as an agenda item next month then and go from there. So that's all I had on that one. You guys can noodle about it,
Noodle.
Can
noodle.
Yeah, you
not
can.
noodle.
No, you
Two different
can
things.
noodle about it over the next month.
Noodle, it's cool.
Does anybody else
my
have
gosh, it's
anything? No, it's
But
not.
Yes, it is.
It's
But I don't like saying
8:59.
noodle.
You're fast. Anyone else have anything?
I make a motion to.
Any good news? Any exciting things happen for people? Brian, did you sign a $10 million deal this month or anything?
No.
No.
Oh, we got COVID.
Oh.
I think I gave the Sobies COVID. Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Share the love.
Yeah, share the love.
Okay. So let's see.
I make a motion to
Yeah.
adjourn the meeting tonight on 1/12/2022.
Second. All in favor?
Peace out. Yo.
Bye. Okay. Does anybody really want to oppose or stay longer or?
That ever happened?
I don't know. There's always a first time. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.